Welcome to Beast TV. From Nebraska to Florida to Mississippi, then to Tennessee, the Pajerski brothers just don't give up. So you better get you a fresh dip and buckle up. Larry Porst II, where you been for 2 weeks?
I've been traveling around the southeast pretty much. Where have you been?
I've been riding shotgun with you. I tell you what, I sure have missed doing this show and all of the people that come on and the comments that we get. And it's just really great to be back.
I agree, especially in the midst of all that's going on outside with this pandemic.
Yeah, and because of the pandemic, we're going to go ahead and reschedule our outing, our meet and greet. So we will probably do it in the fall, and we will let Miss Debbie Jones and Larry Porst II come up with a date. And so we're just kind of waiting to see how all this corona mess plays out.
It's definitely not good, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, but everybody stay at home if you can. Wash your hands. If you fuel your vehicle up, wear a glove and wash your hands. Make sure you wash your hands.
Well, I tell you what, I'm pretty excited about this show tonight. Why don't you go ahead and introduce our guest?
Well, tonight we have all the way from Nebraska, Louis and Jerry Pajerski. How are y'all doing tonight, guys?
Doing good.
Good.
Lewis?
Healthy.
y'all under quarantine right now because y'all traveled out of the state.
Yeah, for 2 weeks I got my vacation extended. It's all right, as long as the paychecks keep coming in, that works for me.
Lewis, let's start with you. I would like for you to introduce yourself and give us some background about where you grew up, along with your family life and any non-Bigfoot hobbies you might have, or anything else about yourself that our audience might find interesting.
Well, as a kid, I grew up pretty much in the Midwest, Minnesota, Nebraska. Mostly Nebraska. Been here since 75. I go hunting, fishing, camping, ride my motorcycle. Basically, I like to go shoot guns and stuff too, so I go do that with a few of my friends every now and again.
I tell you what, a lot of people can relate to that. What about you, Jerry?
That's the same with me. I do a lot of things outdoors. Arrowhead hunting, fishing especially. Do a lot of fishing. Some golfing. A lot of hunting. Hunting a lot of coyotes around here. But that's about it, really. Not much to do out here where I live.
Well, guys, who got interested in Bigfoot first? Jerry, was it you or Louis?
It was Jerry.
I don't know. Yeah, it was probably me. I mean, I can't remember the first time I saw the Patterson film, but the thing that got interested in it the most was the TV shows, because mainly because they never could find anything. So, I found myself yelling at the TV, what do you need me to go out and find them for you or what? That's what got me started. That's basically what got me started on it, was all that. And this is always something. This kind of thing that did the last couple of weeks is something that's been on my bucket list for forever. I've always wanted to do it, and I just don't have places like that around here to do things like that. So unless they're hiding around a soapweed or a yucca plant, they're just out here.
So Louis, did Jerry drag you into it, or did you have your own interest?
No, actually, he sent me the link to Bigfoot Odyssey and told me about it, and I was like, well, what the heck, I want to go, and so he called Carrie up, and Carrie said he needed a couple more people, so I gave him a call and talked to him for about 20 minutes or so, and he said, yeah, welcome aboard, and that's how I got hooked up on this crazy trip.
So did you have any knowledge of Bigfoot before this?
Well, yeah, I've kind of, I've watched the Finding Bigfoot guys, which was pretty funny, but anyway. I mean, I think we've all done that out in the woods.
Yeah, I believe so.
But I don't know. It's just something to watch on TV. I never really looked at anything on YouTube,
Right.
So then I just started looking at some stuff on YouTube, and it's kind of hard to pick out who's what and who to watch and who to believe, and
Yeah, that's very true.
Larry and I first met Lewis and Jerry in southern Mississippi after the state of Florida shut down their public lands where Kerry Arnold of Bigfoot Odyssey had spent 6 months planning this expedition. Now, the Pajerski brothers had already made it to the area and had some suspicious activity happen when they arrived. Why don't y'all tell us about what y'all heard there?
Go ahead, Jerry.
Me too. But that Louis, you want me?
Go ahead, Jerry.
Well, we pulled in there, down there in Florida, just outside of, I don't know, Okeechobee, I guess. And the area looked fantastic. I mean, it was literally like a jungle down there. We pulled in there about 3:30 in the morning, and of course the gate was shut at the campground, and so we decided to sit there, put the vehicle off, roll the windows down, and just going to listen, see if we could, hear anything moving around or just whatever. And I don't know, I guess we were there for about 10 minutes, and I heard something off to my right. I was in the passenger seat out the window. I'd say it was about 50 yards away. You could barely hear something moving around out there. And I'd say about a minute went by or so, and we heard footfalls. There was 2 at first, and then there was 4 right after it. And it was coming closer to us. And I mean, it definitely sounded bipedal. I can't say for sure what it was, but it sure did sound suspicious. It got, I'd say, in the 6 steps that it took, I'd say it sounded like it probably traveled 15, 20 yards or so. And it was moving closer to us, and it stopped. And we sat there for about 10 more minutes, and it never moved again. So, I mean, we couldn't figure out what it was, but it sure was suspicious for sure. Kind of weird, really. I mean, we were only there for a total of maybe a half hour, and we already had activity right there. And so we left, and after about 10 minutes after it came up on us and we didn't hear nothing, we ended up leaving and went and got a motel room, and I guess we stayed there. We got a hotel room, stayed there for like 5 hours, and heard that Florida was no longer a deal. So we took off and headed for Mississippi after that. So, but it was kind of suspicious what was going on down there. It sounded pretty big. Not sure what it was, but I don't know what other animal out there would walk up on us like that. I'd say when it stopped, it was probably 25, maybe 30 yards away. So, and we couldn't see in there. We put the spotlights out and everything. You can't see through that stuff down there. It's ridiculous down there, so thick. The palm meadows and everything else down there. It's like a jungle, literally. So. It's kind of interesting.
Yep. All the tree frogs stopped chirping. I don't know. I got real quiet first.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have got in there, but things just didn't work out that way. So then we all went to, I guess, south central Mississippi and met there. And we got set up there, and within a day, the Rangers come in there and told us we had 48 hours to vacate that. And so we left there and went to another spot, which was private, and we stayed there 2 days. And then the game warden showed up and gave us a day to get out of there. So as we were packing up, Jerry and Lewis said, we went right by LBL. So what do y'all think about going there? And I'm like, hey, I got a week off and nothing to do, so why not? And even Mark Neville said the same thing, and I was surprised about that. So, go ahead, Mark.
Well, this is just my thoughts that, when you plan strategies and the excitement and adrenaline of an expedition can be a huge mental high. But when circumstances beyond your control begin to manipulate your blueprint of the group's game plan, it can turn into an emotional downward spiral that if the faction isn't careful of it, it can turn the whole demeanor of the excursion into a complete waste of time. But what I really appreciated about Lewis and Jerry was their ability to reach deep inside themselves and stay focused on the job at hand and not allow our negative predicaments to distract us from our purpose and goals. Lewis, give us a little insight on the inner strength and discipline you demonstrated over all the curveballs that were slung at us.
Well, it was irritating. It was irritating. After we got kicked out of the parks and went to the private spot, there was some hope for that spot, but once we got there, I didn't, we kind of cased the joint out right away, but I didn't really feel nothing there. Heard some stuff, but I can't say it, Heard some stuff crashing through the woods, but when we were at the National Forest, there was some stuff there. If we would have stayed there, I think maybe we could have went to some different parts of the park and maybe got some action or something. But yeah, it was discouraging being the first time But I met you guys, and we all kind of just clicked right away, and kind of just watched everybody else do their thing. And I know Carrie was pretty much burned out by that point. So we all pretty much knew after we got kicked out of that private spot it was done. So
Yeah. Jerry, when we were at the National Forest, we were out there waiting for it to get dark and doing a little fishing. Can you elaborate on what we heard happen? I'm talking about the
Yeah,
tree
sure.
pop.
We were sitting there fishing. Yeah, we were sitting there giving Larry fishing lessons, and
That's true
uh,
story.
and while we were fishing, we heard this tree kind of just it popped at first. It just made a big pop, and then about 2-3 seconds later, you could just hear it fall down through all the other trees. That was pretty crazy. We went and tried to find the fallen tree, and we never did find the tree. And it was kind of, I don't know, there's one spot there got kind of creepy up in there when we were walking through there, but that was really about the only thing that happened there. I mean, I found a couple of things that looked like some footprints there, some tree structures, things like that. But that tree was pretty crazy. I don't know. There wasn't any wind or anything like that, so I don't know what would have caused it. I mean, it sounded like it just popped and then just fell over. So that was pretty interesting.
Our outing ended a little early in South Mississippi. And really, to tell the truth, that Larry and I really took a shining to Jerry and Lewis. And knowing how far they had traveled, we offered to take them to LBL. So we drove the 8 hours back to Larry's house during the night. And we actually, I don't know if y'all know it or not, but we actually dodged a tornado that come through one of those towns and drove through rainstorms. When we got to Larry's, we caught a few hours of sleep, and we left back out in the rain to set up camp at LBL. That night we went out and did some calls, but that first night was pretty much a bust. But the next night at our first stop, we all saw eye shine. Lewis, give us your take on this eye shine that you saw.
Well, I videoed it in the night vision, but I haven't been able to download it to my computer yet. But anyway, when we pulled up, as the Jeep pulled past the tree line over there, we saw some eye shine, two eyes. It seemed like it was pretty high up in the trees, but it was it's pitch black out there. So we decided that we're going to stop there and make some calls. So Larry was making some calls, I believe, and I took my night vision and I just kind of was scanning that area that we saw the eye shine over there. And as I was looking over there, I saw one eye, like just one eye shine. And it was there for a second, then it went away. Then it came back for a second, then it went away. And it came back and it stayed, just the one, stayed there for, probably a good 30 seconds or so before it disappeared. And I didn't see it again. But that was, I don't know.
Yeah, the thing on that.
From where we could tell when we went back there, it was pretty high up in the tree line. So
Go ahead,
So
Yeah, when
Jerry.
I
kinda
first
weird.
saw the eye shine, when I first saw the eye shine, first pulled up there, when we saw two eyes, and it looked like the eyes were really far apart. They weren't close. Like we saw probably 300, 400 deer while there, and you can tell the difference between that eye shine and those deer that we saw. And there at first, when we first pulled up there, and Larry turned off the lights and everything in the vehicle, we were sitting in the vehicle looking at this thing. Well, I guess the headlights were still on, but the eye shine was really far apart. I'd say, I mean, at least 10 inches apart. At least 10 inches apart. And yeah, it did look like it was. After we went back the next day and saw it, looked at the area that we were in, it did look like it was pretty far up in the trees compared to what we saw in the vehicle that night. But I noticed that right away, that the eye shine. You could see one at first, and then it kind of turned its head, and the eyes were super far apart, and it just, the way it was moving and stuff, it just didn't look like a deer or anything like that. I can't say what it was, but I noticed that the eyes were super far apart. So that was kind of cool to see.
Do either of y'all recall what color the eye shine was?
It was white.
Yeah.
It was a white eye shine in the night vision.
Right. But I mean, whenever we pulled up.
It looked white when we pulled up.
Okay.
Yeah, it looked white, or maybe a little bluish to it, maybe.
All right.
So, it's pretty cool, really.
The next day, we went back to the area where we saw this eye shine to really just to put boots on the ground and look for any type of Bigfoot activity. And I really believe that we were successful in finding possible, if not probable, signs. Larry, what were your impressions of observing Lewis and Jerry the next day when we went back to comb the area for booger trails and sign?
Oh, they had a real good eye for seeing stuff that stood out that wasn't normal. And they had a even better eye for being skeptical of what caused whatever. If they were looking at something, Jerry and Lewis both would say, oh, that's not nothing, that's natural, or this is weird, I don't see how this could have happened. But they would really go over every aspect of it, just like we do, trying to discredit or credit what we're looking at. And I think they're pretty much on board with us. It's hard for them to say that, yes, a Bigfoot did this. They will say it could have done it, but I'm not sure.
I know what else it could have been. I don't.
Well, when we walked out into the field, and then we headed towards the creek and into the woods, and I kind of laid back, and my impression, well, I went down because it had rained, and so I wanted to look down at the creek bed and look for any type of impressions and shoot a little video. And every time I looked up, Lewis reminded me of a bird dog, because he was out in front of everybody else. And I would look up and I would see him over here checking this out. And then I'd go back to doing what I was doing, and I'd look up again, and, he'd be 25, 30 yards in the other direction doing something else. And then really, I've got to give credit to Larry, because Larry is, a lot of people will try to take you out and try to impress you with all they know and this and that. But Larry stayed back. He stayed back behind both of them and just kind of followed them. And then whenever they would find something, then they would Larry would just ask questions. You remember what was on the end of that stick, Larry? That Jerry found.
They're mostly smart ass questions. Excuse my language.
Uh-oh. That's one demerit, Louis. Yeah, I remember what was on the end of that stick. And Jerry kept telling me it didn't have no smell, and he was holding the stick smelling it. And I was like, Jerry, I'll smell it, but I'm going to have the stick in my hand before I stick it up to my nose.
I was about 25 yards away and still in the wood line. And I looked up, and Larry starts motioning me over. And Larry's holding that stick, and I walk up there, and he had some. Jerry had some dookie on that stick, and and for a second I didn't know if either one of them was going to taste it. They kept talking about how it didn't have no smell to it, and I thought, but it didn't. I smelt it, and it had just about absolutely no smell to it.
And that was weird.
No, it didn't.
LBL has been infiltrated with wild hogs now, or feral hogs that have turned wild. And we did see some hog manure. But this could have been a 500 or 600 pound hog, I guess, because it was big, but it had no smell at all for whatever it was, and I don't understand it. And it was fresh. Wouldn't you say so, Jerry?
I'd say it was that day.
Oh yeah, it was definitely that day. It was. I mean, it didn't look like it could have been not very old at all. It was definitely that morning. I mean, it was a lot bigger, and we were close to the horse trail, but it wasn't horse manure for sure, and it was pretty big. I mean, it's about as big around as a beer can, I'd say. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it didn't. It had what really was weird about it. It had no smell at all. I mean, no smell at all. I mean, that was kind of weird.
I've not been around.
Yeah, it was definitely fresh that morning.
I've not been around wild hogs a lot, so I'm not sure if them eating natural vegetation and stuff cuts down on the smell. But I know a domestic hog, that's terrible.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was peculiar. That's for sure.
I think hog scat smells no matter what they eat. It was just kind of strange that it didn't have any smell to it.
Yeah. Well, enough about poop. Let's move on to something else now. And we didn't save any for DNA because none of us have $10,000 to get it analyzed or whatever it costs. I did take a picture of it.
That tree we found, that cedar tree we found there, pretty much, I don't know, it wasn't very far away from that scat. That tree was something else there. I mean, we couldn't find a stump. It was wedged in a couple branches. The tree was 25 to 30 feet tall. Yeah, and
right.
It's kind of weird because it's pretty much up against the other tree, but it had no root system on it, and I don't see how it got wedged up in that tree. So that cedar tree was really something that got me going, got me excited.
Yeah, we're showing some video right now of this cedar tree, and it was like it was just snapped off, and you can tell where it was splintered at the bottom, and it was probably positioned about 4.5 feet from the oak tree that it was leaning up against, and there was no drag marks. Of course, there was leaf litter on the ground, but it was just like something had picked it up and just set it there and wedged it up against that oak tree. And I don't know. I don't know about you, Larry, but I just really appreciated the way Jerry and Lewis just sat there and just kept going over and over and over and trying to eliminate any possible way that this could have happened without it just being picked up and set there. But for myself, I couldn't come to no other conclusions.
Yeah, I couldn't either. And I mean, I didn't even have to interject any of my witty humor into it because Jerry and Louie had it dissected all together. So all I had to do was sit back and video because they pegged it pretty well. The tree, definitely the cedar tree.
Yeah, and there was one.
Go ahead, Jerry.
There was one branch there that Louis noticed that was kind of balanced up there too.
Right.
That was just no explanation how that got there either. So.
And that wasn't a cedar limb either. That was an oak limb. So.
You know,
right.
One thing that I noticed about that limb that was just, it was almost like it was just placed there, is if it had fallen out of that oak tree, then it would have been hitting those cedar branches, and it would have, there's no way it could have landed up next to those trunks, that it would have deflected and bounced away and been like 6 foot. Now, could a hunter have put it there, or a human? Yes, definitely. But it was the two things together, with the tree that had been snapped off, pushed up against the oak tree, and then that hanger just sitting there right up against both of them. It was really peculiar.
Yeah, and it looked like it's been sitting there for a while. The leaf clutter was all along the bottom of it. We had to clear it away to make sure that there wasn't any roots there. And yeah, it was pretty strange, really. Pretty strange. It got me excited.
Well, I don't know. I cannot. It's always good when you run into people that are very grounded and they don't throw everything that they see into a Bigfoot box. And I felt really good about being in the woods with Lewis and Jerry, because this was really their first time, their first attempt at actually going out
Yes.
and putting boots on the ground, and to not make assumptions. Larry had asked Jerry a question, and I cannot remember what the question was, but Larry was trying to get Jerry to think about why we were headed in the direction that we were. And I could see Jerry thinking and trying to figure out, he might not have understand Larry's question right. And so I just inserted, I said, Jerry, quit looking at this as we're out here in the field, and look at this area as you're looking at a topographical map. And soon as I said that, you could see it click with him why we were moving in the direction we were moving.
And Jerry don't want to talk about that.
Guess not.
Well,
All right.
Now, Lewis, you
I mean,
go ahead.
go ahead.
Goat head.
Lewis, you stayed out in front of us everywhere we went. Tell us what was going through your mind as you were leading us.
Well, with all the leaf and cover and pine needles and crap, I kind of would only look for footprints here and there because otherwise it's really hard to see them and stuff like that. So I was more looking for any abnormal tree structures or any kind of something I thought was out of the norm. In the woods, out in, the farther we got back in there, the more I would be looking for it, thinking that the farther we got in there, less people would be back in there, So I was just basically looking for some abnormal tree stuff to see if maybe I could find something over there, walk the creek bottom, trying to find a print or something maybe through there. But that was all rock, so it's even harder to see that in there too. So that's all basically I was looking for. I was kind of wondering what you guys were going to do, so I was kind of doing my own thing, and then kind of maybe trying to see what you guys were doing. So
Yeah.
Well, the
Out
next
there in front of us a little bit. That was all right.
what did y'all take away from this day hike where we went?
Not everybody at once.
What did you take away
I
from
would
it?
have liked to went farther back in that holler because it started getting pretty thick back in there. When we decided
What
to
I
turn
took
back
away
and
from
come
what I
up-
got from it
went up
was,
the hill.
Go ahead,
got from
Jerry.
it was, it looked like a pretty good area. Looked like a pretty good area. I mean, the tree really got me. The tree is what really got me. That's what I got from it. I mean, it just there wasn't really, none of the leaf clutter was or anything like that. So it really wasn't anything about tracks. But what I liked about it really was, just the area looked pretty good. It had all them fallen trees with the big root balls and stuff laying over where, I mean, it was just an interesting place, really, to me. I liked it. I could do it again anytime.
Okay, Larry, here's a question for you from Doug Schrader.
No.
Was it near the Elk and Bison Refuge by Golden Pond Visitor Center?
It was not. It was further south than that. Do you want me to tell exactly where it was?
Well, we better not because that's
No, it was south
It's
of
top
the
secret.
elk range. It was. Now, Lane Goodspeed wants to know, was there a tree bend just past the Cedar Tree? I know y'all noticed it. What did y'all think about it?
Looked
Jerry,
natural to me.
there you go.
Yeah, it looked natural to me. I mean, tree bends up there are everywhere. I mean, there was literally these little trees that were 3 inches in diameter and 30 foot tall. So, I mean, it was definitely all the tree bends looked all natural to me. I mean, I looked at them real close and it just didn't look like anything, did it. I mean, it just looked natural to me. So
That's the beauty of LVL. It's a lot of mature hardwoods, so the smaller trees grow toward the sunlight that they can get to, and they wind up. Some of them are natural bends to begin with, and some of the trees are trying to get to the only sunlight coming through that canopy, so they wind up bending. And that's one thing I like is Jerry would look at those tree bends pretty well and say, "That's natural. Let's go."
There was a big one. There was a big one past that. Remember when I said, "Look, it's pointing to go this way."
Yeah.
Remember, and had that big tree bend right there. And that was a big one. I don't think I ever
that one.
that.
Yeah, they all looked natural to me from what I saw. Even that big one. I mean, I never saw anything suspicious about the tree bends at all up there. Maybe one in Mississippi, but nothing up there in LVL. So
on the tree bends, what would be abnormal to you?
Shoved in, twisted at the bottom so it doesn't pull back out. Kind of wedged in somewhere. So it wouldn't like snap back.
Yeah, maybe
up.
tucked under something. Yeah. That's tucked under another tree or something like that, and we just never saw anything like that. So
right, and we did see a couple that
some people's. Go ahead, Larry.
I was just going to say we did see a couple that had a big tree limb on it that was pinning it down, but we were able to find where it broke off the tree to know that it was most likely natural. So sometimes, even if they're pinned down, you got to look at the trees around to make sure it didn't naturally fall out of a tree and pin the tree down. And sometimes we find them that's impossible, that it couldn't have done it. So that's where you just got to be diligent and look at your surroundings and look up in the trees and all that just to decide whether it was possibly natural or not.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, that's what was, I'm not going to speak for you, Larry, but that's what was so refreshing to me is when we went out with Lewis and Jerry down in Mississippi, that they didn't jump to conclusions and they just examined everything. And like I probably say on every show, they let the evidence speak for itself. And they didn't try to mold the evidence into what they wanted it to be, even though that we were finding other signs in there. And so many times we go out and people just want to take the little obscure thing and then just start screaming Bigfoot did it. And that's, I guess those are the people I walk a wide circle around. I'm not going to go out with you too many times and you're screaming Bigfoot and I'm looking at something going, this is natural.
Easy, Mark. Easy.
Keep them in line, Larry. Keep them in line.
That's right.
That's a whole nother show there. So
yeah. But
kind of an inside
don't do it.
Joke.
Don't do it.
Well,
all right. There you go, Mark. Move on to the next evening.
Okay. Well, the next day, we had a special guest show up to camp.
Uh-oh.
Louis, why don't you tell us who our special guest was and what you thought about this person?
Debbie Jones was her name. I thought she was informative. She's had quite a few experiences. So I just kind of sat and listened to her little stories and stuff. trying to pick up on some stuff, learning, what they can be doing. I might think it's not them, it could be them type of stuff.
She's a lot smarter than us.
Yeah, way smarter.
A whole lot better looking.
What was
Yeah,
your
I thought Debbie was great, man. She had some great stories that she told us. Thought she was great. I'm glad she came down. I'm glad to meet her. It was awesome.
I tell you what, I have been out in the field with grown men that if something happens, then they want to panic. And Debbie Jones is a person that you want standing beside you if things start hitting the fan.
Yeah.
Because she is not going to go nowhere. She is going to stay there with you and circle the wagons. And if you've got to back out, then you're going to all back out together. And
she twists my ear all the time, tells me to calm down.
She's keeping you in line, Larry.
That's right.
When we went out the last night, Louie was doing some howls and some whoops, and I really feel like Louie called up a booger and got a response. What are your thoughts on that, Larry?
I know Debbie heard it live with Louie, and she was pretty excited about it. And we did download it and review it. And I honestly, whenever I reviewed it, I couldn't find it because I didn't know how to amplify the sound or whatever. So I sent it on to Mark, and Mark was able to hear it and pinpoint it and bring it out. And it didn't sound like a coyote to me, but to the hundreds of experts out there, it will probably. But what can you do? Louie, what did you think about it?
Yeah. I don't know. I heard the coyotes a few times when we were calling on different nights, and they were active that night. They were out there yipping and hollering. But this one, I don't know. It was just longer, sustained, and then it kind of went up real fast at the end.
Yeah.
And it kind of just went steady, and then went whoop right at the end like that. And then it was three short ones, just three short little howls, just woo, woo, 3 times in a row.
Yeah.
It was different. And after I listened to the actual sound after Mark cleaned it all up, it sounds different.
Well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and listen to it, and I will play it twice. Here we go. That was an awesome response that you got with your howls, Louie. And it seems like every time that we show capture audio, somebody is going to just say, well, that was coyotes. That was
or a wolf.
or a wolf, or a human, or whatever. So right now, up on the screen, on the top spectrogram, I have known coyote vocalizations. And those vocalizations will go up into 2,000 plus hertz. And these vocalizations that Debbie captured on her recorder, they started off around 500 and went up to like 750 hertz. And that does not match any known animal that science recognizes. And it was just awesome. I was actually in the Jeep asleep. It was our last stop, and I was just, after 9 days in the field.
You gotta go to the end.
Yeah, yeah. I'm being I got him. I'm being tutored.
I was in there too. I was asleep.
And it's
well, I was in the Jeep. I was in the Jeep too, but I wasn't sleeping. Just,
you might as well have been.
Kind
Jerry.
of a pain. Kind of a pain getting it out of the back seat of that thing. So after about 12 times, you just kind of don't want to do it.
Well, I remember listening to the whole audio, and there was one part to where Debbie tells Louie, she goes, I think that's Mark snoring. I shouldn't have even said nothing because I didn't even play that, but it's true. You can hear me inside the Jeep snoring, and but I ain't got no shame. I mean, it was 9 days out in the field and covering all this area that we covered. And at some time your battery's going to run low. But I tell you, Louie was so excited about that callback. I know when we got back to camp, everybody went to bed and I was just sitting around the fire, and Louie come over and just started talking about it, and I could tell how pumped he was. And it just reminded me the first time that I got a call back from one of my calls. It's a pretty exciting thing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, after hearing it on the spectrogram when you emailed it to me, and I listened to it today, the first two and the last two on the spectrogram sounds pretty different. It's definitely not a coyote. I mean, it's possible, could be a wolf, but I don't know. It just
the end of it is what
pretty
got
far
me.
away too.
Okay. Okay, Larry, we got a few questions. We could go through some of these questions. And Rodney Beasley asked, was it in the holler where we camped? And Rodney, I'm going to tell you, where we camped at was the same place that you came and met us at the Outlaws meet and greet. That's where we camped at.
All right.
It was a nice, it was a cool place to camp. I thought I liked it.
Where was the callback at?
I can't tell you. It's top secret information.
We'd have to kill you, Louis.
I
Yeah.
But
remember in a minute.
but we've had several callbacks there. All right,
Oh, okay. I know where it is now. Thanks.
Jerry and Lewis.
Uh,
It ain't that spot.
Well, you
Andy,
know, if I'm going there, I'm going by your house anyway, so I'll come by and get you.
all right. Andy Gone Fishing asked, did y'all find any bobcat or cougar tracks near the lake? Or how about the fishing? Was it good?
No.
No.
Never found any tracks, and we got a 1-day fishing license up there, and had one bite up there. So fishing wasn't all that great. Water was coming up. I mean, the water came up overnight, probably
Yeah.
2 or 3 feet.
They
So
raised it
water
from
fluctuation like that.
they raised it from winter pool to summer pool that weekend we were there. So
Mm.
all right.
okay, Eric asked, reach down and pull IP on them, Mark.
Pull
It's-
up on them, Mark.
Pull up on them. I don't understand what Eric's asking here.
Whenever I cut you off from talking smack about people, he
Oh.
wanted you to keep going.
Oh,
Easy, Mark. All right, we're going on to the next question. Diane Fowler asked, have any of us found any interesting weaving out in the woods?
Weaving.
Weaving. In some places, people will be left gifts of small weaved items, or they may find weaved structures.
I've never seen one.
Jerry hadn't seen
No,
one
never
either.
saw anything like that.
Mark
No.
has.
Never saw anything like that. I mean, to me, that'd be pretty easy to pick up on. So never saw anything like that.
I think Mark has, and I have. And it was at LBL back pond. It was just a small little, it wasn't big. It was only about that big on the ground. But it was definitely some type of weaving or manipulation. All right. What's the next question?
okay. Lane Goodspeed wants to hear Lewis do a call.
But
And-
he's been banned from that.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to do it. No.
All
Top secret.
Yeah, we can't do that.
all it was Lewis did some howls, and then he did some whoops, and it's just like anything that you would see on Finding Bigfoot, as far as doing a loud, long howl. And Louis he's got a set of lungs on him.
He's got a little rasp in there too.
Yeah, rasp. Absolutely.
All right. Our friend Roy Miller from our outing that we went on in Mississippi, he says, I regret not joining y'all in LBL. I wanted more than what we got the week before, and y'all are good brothers to me.
Roy. What's up, Roy? We're coming to your house pretty soon.
Yeah, Roy had
That's right.
an interesting encounter that happened in his house. He lives in Georgia.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty cool hearing about this encounter. And Larry and I have both spent quite a few times in Georgia, and we take a shining to Georgia, don't we, Larry?
Yeah, we do. It's a great place, and I know Debbie loves it there too. She's dying to go back, and we had planned on going back, but Corona and his virus got rid of that. So
So if
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, if you got any questions, just put them in all caps, and Shelly Reed will send them to us.
That's right.
I have a question.
Oh boy, I hope it's from Mark.
Put it in all caps, Jerry.
When we going to Oklahoma? That's what I want to know.
Well, we'll have to work it into our busy schedule of vacation and no vacation, because some of us are still working. You know.
Well,
But I tell you, the next time that we do go, then we will let both of y'all know, because because you will love Oklahoma, and the Ozarks dump off into Oklahoma, the foothills, and it's just prime habitat for these
I can
creatures.
drive that in my sleep.
Well, speaking of sleep, I know that last night we were at LVL, I was wore out from all the traveling, and I slept good every night we were out in the woods. But that last night we were in that campground, I heard something or someone walking around our hammocks. We had Mark in one hammock, Debbie was in the middle in my other hammock, and then she brought my Inu, and I was sleeping at one end in that. And between the lake and us, which was probably 75 yards maybe, something coming there walking. I assumed it was Louie or Jerry or Mark going down there, but they all said it wasn't, and there wasn't anybody else that close to us that should have been walking down in there, unless it was a serial killer at the very first campground. But I found that interesting. I don't know what it was, but something bipedal was walking around, and it could have been a human. I don't know, but I woke up and heard it and just ignored it and went back to sleep because I assumed it was one of our group.
I can't imagine a person walking there without a flashlight, and you would have seen the light of a flashlight. And so that, and we have at that spot have had activity, and it's an easy place for them to get to us down in that holler where we were at down there by that lake.
Yeah. All right. Lane Goodspeed asks, whose night vision shots are those? Really great. And Patrick Noble wants to know, what kind of thermal camera do we use?
Well, Larry's camera was in the shop, his thermal. And so we borrowed Shelly Reed's TK Scout. And so these shots here with the thermal are done with the TK Scout. And Kerry Arnold had given Louie and Jerry night vision binoculars. And so even though that Louie shot a lot of video with the night vision, he's still learning them, and his computer has been messing up. So he hasn't had the time to learn how to upload the videos that he shot. But if he gets them then to us, then we will put them on the Beast page, because I feel like Louie really got some good video of that eye shine that we got on that second night.
I'll get it to you. I'll get an email
that was
to
pretty
you by the weekend.
interesting.
So.
let's see.
That was pretty interesting eye shine on that night camera. So that was pretty cool.
Yep.
I'll just take it to my sister's and do it on her computer, and I'll have her email it to you.
Okay, that sounds good.
That way you'll have it, and you can put it up there by the weekend. I'll go over there tomorrow. She's quarantined.
I think
everybody's quarantined.
Except for the guy putting my cable in. He's coming in.
Yeah, I hear you. Unfortunately.
Getting all that money.
Hazard pay.
Get your boat back?
Not yet. I did get my thermal back, though, and they decided not to fix it and just sent me a new one.
Sweet.
I thought that was a good deal.
Got any more broken ones?
All right.
So we didn't talk about that other spot we went to where that family was killed up there.
Oh, did you want to talk
I thought
about that?
Well, I just thought that area there was. I think that was one of the best areas that we looked at LVO. Personally, I mean that was pretty interesting.
Oh, the dog
right
man
there, I
lives there.
You know, that was probably one of the most narrow points of LVL is right in that area. That's where the river.
Yeah, I thought that area was.
Don't give
That
up.
area was pretty cool. That area was pretty cool to me. I'd like to go back and really look at that sometime. Walk around in there real good.
We may go there and camp sometime once all the stuff straightens out.
Maybe that's where we should hold the outing. Probably be about 4 people show up.
Yeah, that's probably right. That's all right.
We'll tell them we'll clear off them concrete slabs.
I'll be one of them. I'll be one of them for sure. I'll be there if you want to go there. Anytime.
Rick said, "Don't drop that FLIR in the creek, Larry."
I'm not planning on it, and I'm not going to plug in the wrong power cord to charge it either. I've had some bad luck with those, but what can you do? If you leave them at home, you don't have to worry about messing them up, I guess.
Well, there's hours and hours of audio somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I did lose another recorder. That's the 5th one I've lost. When you get tired and you set a recorder on your hood and you're worried about going back to camp and going to sleep, you forget to take it off the hood. So, and we went back and looked and couldn't find it. I don't know. I have some bad luck with equipment.
I am so glad that Rick Wells II is on here. I love his humor. Rick wants to know, did y'all social distance in your hammocks or ignore it and pile into the same one as usual? Well, Rick, how do you know we pile in the same one as usual?
Rick's watched the wrong videos, I think.
Yeah.
That's their other channel.
Well, we didn't have hammocks, but we had a big enough tent that we could have definitely had our social distance. It was definitely a huge tent we were in. So.
Yeah, that's right.
Call it the condo.
And that was really a nice tent. And Jerry and Louie shamed us because they got
up
that
faster than hammocks.
Yeah, they got that tent up faster than me and Larry got the hammocks up.
That is very true.
Larry just looked at me and says, "Next time I'm bringing the tent."
Yep. It's sad. One thing I did notice about the campground, though, is everybody, they left space between each other. Nobody did get real close, so that was a good thing. Jerry, you gotta quit doing that. Are you
Sorry
there?
about that.
You can't take him anywhere. Jerry and Lewis. Jerry and Lewis, and next time we're going to bring on Dean Martin.
Let's see. Central Florida Bigfoot asks, "Is this the Cary trip?" Sorry, came in late. CFB, we are
Part of it.
we really, yeah, it's kind of part of it. When you go back and watch it, we talk a little bit about it at the beginning, but we don't want to steal Cary's thunder, and we want to let Cary tell the story. And so we are pretty much focusing on the after we left Mississippi and went to land between the lakes in Tennessee, and the activity that we had there, and the different evidence that we documented.
Yep. Spencer asks, "Are y'all and Cary planning to redo the trip at some point?" And Cary is planning on going in the fall, I believe. I doubt I will be able to get vacation. I'm pretty sure I won't be able to, so I probably won't be able to make it. And I'm not sure about Mark or Jerry or Louie, and I won't put them on the spot here. I just answered Spencer's question for me.
Well, if I'm able to make it, I will make it, but I know that he's talking about the month of October, and October is usually a pretty busy month for us.
Heather's asking a very interesting question, and it is, how is COVID-19 affecting future Bigfooting trips?
It sucks.
It's affecting them pretty bad. I know.
We might have to start checking veterinary clinics. They're going to be looking for help.
I know the state parks are totally shut down. You won't get in any state campground. National parks, most of the campgrounds that have a bathhouse or bathroom on them are now shutting down. As far as I know, you can still go primitive camping in the national parks, but with the stay-at-home orders that the governors are issuing and this and that, they may start fining people for leaving their house if you're not out working an essential working job. I don't know. I heard today that in a small town close to where I live, where I work, that they closed down the city parks, and if they find anybody in those city parks, they're going to fine them $500. So they're getting pretty serious on this, and they need to, because it can get out of hand real quick. And it just takes a casual meeting for a cup of coffee or whatever, and you've just met the 100 people that person met 2 days before. So you kind of got to be careful.
I guess what worries me is going out of state, and then after things are moving so rapidly, and whenever you get done with your trip and you're trying to come back into your home state, or the state borders going to be closed off. I know that Cary ran into that. He was being summoned back to Western Texas where he works, and Louisiana shut down their borders, and they turned him around, told him to go back. He wasn't welcome. So that's also something to think about if you go out of state and they shut down the borders. And that was really my deciding.
So did he not make it back to Texas?
He could not make it back to Texas.
Nope.
And so that was my deciding vote on the meet and greet that the Beast Group was going to have at LBL, because I wouldn't want somebody not to come because they live outside of Tennessee.
And we sure wouldn't want somebody to die because they come to it and got COVID-19.
Is that how come every time we stopped at a convenience store, you sent me inside, Larry, to get you what you wanted?
That's exactly correct. If there's anybody in this group that's expendable,
I might as well just go ahead and give you the password now to Sawdust Beast YouTube channel.
Yeah, you might are too.
Well, I got an annual pass to be camping there, so you better let me through.
Well, there are a lot of.
I think Larry just wanted to. I think Larry just wanted to get caught up on his gameplay on his phone. So
that's true too. With all the driving I was doing, I didn't have time except when I stopped for gas.
Driving.
Oh yeah, we didn't drive.
Yeah, we put on
cars, y'all did.
We put on enough miles.
I drove about 4,000 miles.
Pass those. Yeah, we could have drove across the country, coast to coast, the miles we put on. So,
y'all really traveled some distance, and because Jerry came from Western Nebraska and then went to Eastern Nebraska and met up with Louie, and then they drove all the way down to the Everglades. And
yep,
that's and
I didn't see an alligator.
we were the first one.
I guess I saw a
first
baby alligator.
Let's see. Heather wants to know, will we see more Beast episodes while the nation is on stay-at-home orders? Well, I tell you, as far as I'm concerned, there's no safer place for you to be at than in the woods. And that's...
Apparently Oklahoma's not closed down if Clayton's down there. He's got to be camping somewhere unless he knows somebody's private property or something.
Easy. You're giving away locations on the air again.
All I said was Oklahoma. Good luck finding them.
I was kidding. Spencer had a good question. He said, Mark, if you get COVID, can he have your cameras?
Absolutely, but you might have to fight Larry Porch and Debbie Jones and Shelley Reed over them. Maybe y'all can wager on them.
We'll share.
All I know is I'm getting that Jeep.
You still got 4 years to pay on it. Congratulations.
Okay. I hope you're not upside down in it.
It's close.
Okay.
All right.
Well, guys, we're over an hour and 20 minutes into this. Have we caught up on all the questions, Larry?
I believe so, but I'm bad about missing one or two. So Shelley hadn't said anything, so I think we're caught up on them. Wait, Rawdell said 4,000 miles.
4,000 miles.
4,000 miles. And that was a brand new truck when you started. You already need a set of tires and a new motor, don't you?
Hell no. Just ready to do it again. Just ready to go to Oklahoma now. They'll let me anyway.
Doug Schrader said we are welcome to camp anytime on a remote 11-acre parcel that he owns near Western Shore, Kentucky Lake. There you go.
Man, where were you a week
There
ago?
you go.
Doug, we're gonna have to hook up.
You know what Roy Miller says about that? You can't hide money. That's what he said.
But yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think we're caught up. I think.
All right. Well, I tell you what, let's go ahead and start wrapping this up. And Louie, why don't you tell us your final thoughts of going on your first boogering expedition and meeting everybody and just what you thought about it?
Uh-oh.
Well, all the people were good. All the people were great people. There's some characters there, but it's fun to watch. But most of everybody was great. Mark Kent, he's a good guy. Poor Brandon had to fly all the way to Dallas, Texas just to turn around. That would suck. But it was what it was, and I made it what I could make it. I had 2 weeks off to burn, so I wasn't going to drive home unless they made me.
Right.
So it was an experience. I was hoping we'd actually get some action down there in Florida, but I'm pretty sure we probably would have too. But it is what it is. I made the best of it. We did
get a little action down there, though.
On my first time trying to call, got a call back, so I was happy about that.
It's always a good thing.
So
Jerry, are you there? How did your first?
Yeah, these are the kind of things I love to do. I love doing that kind of stuff. I met some great people. Finally got to, I really wanted to meet you guys more than anything. Really, to tell you the truth, you and Carrie but all the rest of the guys, I liked them all. This is, something that been on my bucket list forever. So LBL was great. Good time up there. Got to meet Debbie and everything. That was awesome. So I'd definitely go do it anytime I can. Anytime I get a chance to do it, I'd go do it again. It's too bad the virus kind of shut us down and all that. But other than that, it was, I thoroughly enjoyed myself. Got to outfish Larry, but he got me back, making me climb in and out of. He got me back by making me climb in and out of the back seat of that Jeep. So,
yeah, you can't outfish me and not pay for it.
Yep, that's true. But I loved it, man. I love doing things like that. So,
well, when we got the LBL, we were a little wore out from all the moving and traveling, but we did finally get to settle down a little bit and do a little research, and that was good. We we didn't hit it as hard as we normally do because we were wore out, but we did go out every day and do a little hike, and we went out every night and stayed out pretty late. So it was a good time for sure.
Yeah.
Larry, what's your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are with the people in healthcare tonight that are out there on the front lines fighting COVID, those with family members that have it. our prayers for strength and wisdom to fight this thing, and just for the general public to please follow the orders that are given. If you got to get out, take care of yourself, wash your hands, do all the things they tell you, and hopefully within a month or so, this will die down and we can get back to some normal lives.
Well, that's very good advice. And you should probably add every time you make a stop, send Mark Newble in there to get it. And, you know, I have thought about that too. And I saw a video of today on Facebook that our friend Patty Ogden did. And she's a nurse that helps cancer patients. And the video, it was just a beautiful video of all those nurses singing, and they're on the front lines. So God bless you, Patty Ogden.
No doubt.
Amen.
Larry, let's talk about all of our new subscribers that we're getting on Facebook. And I'm just not really sure where everybody is coming from, but so if you're new to our Facebook's Sawdust Beast page, we encourage you to check out our tab section. We have a lot of useful information on there. With I was going through it today to get some screenshots, and I noticed that the very first thing that I put on there back in 2015 maybe was how to read topo maps. And we've got all kind of videos on there, how to use these different software programs we have. And so we just want to thank everybody that's came to our Facebook page. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, then we would really appreciate you subscribing there. And we do want to thank all of our new subscribers and our faithful followers. Also, be sure to check out our field evidence videos. If there are any guests you would like to see on Beast TV, post their names in the comment section, and we will sick Debbie Jones on them. And please, don't forget to hit that like button and leave us a comment. Larry and I always want to thank Debbie, Shelley, Heather, Sally, and all of our moderators for all the behind the scenes work they do. And check out our sister channel, Beast of the Woods. That's Larry's channel. And our friends at Bigfoot Outlaws, Dixie Cryptid, Night Callers, Bigfoot Odyssey, and Hidden Existence. Thanks again to Jerry and Lewis for coming on this week, and we will see you again. Same bat time, same bat channel. Night night, footers.
This has been a Sawdust production.